Hello everybody, today we're going to be starting the first video in the series on the Primo Principio by Blessed John Duns Scotus, which is his extended argument for the existence of God. It takes up about 70 pages. Let's get right into it. So before we start the actual book, we're going to need a quick primer on a classic distinction in scholastic philosophy, specifically per se versus per accidens causal series. First, per accidens. These are the ones you're used to. Per accidens causal series happen over time, and the members receive causal powers. So think about, the classic example is a child. A father produces a child, and the child now has the power to produce other children. It happens over time. It isn't instantaneous. And the later members in the series have causal powers of themselves. They don't depend on the earlier members. After your dad makes you and you become an adult, you don't continuously depend on your father to produce children of your own. These happen over time, again, because the later members are capable of utilizing causal power without the effect of the earlier members. Okay, next we have the per se causal series, which are instantaneous, and the members participate in the causal powers rather than receive them. So in the first series, your father gave you the power to produce new children, but in the second kind of series, he can't, if this was analogous, in the second kind of series, you can't receive and keep the causal powers without the source of them continuously giving it to you. Okay. Next, we have the rules for dividing essentially ordered series. So Scotus is going to give us 4 complete divisions in essentially ordered causal series. That's the second kind. The ones that are instantaneous, where you participate in causal power rather than receive it and keep it. Okay. So here are the 3 rules for dividing essentially ordered series. The members resulting from the division must be indicated and therefore shown to be contained in what is divided. That is just to say that when you divide everything, all of the members should fall into one of the divisions, all of the things. The second rule is the parts of the division must be mutually exclusive. And the third is that the classification must exhaust the subject matter to be divided. You can't have little extra classifications of causal powers hiding out in the wings that you don't talk about. You have to exhaust all of the possible divisions, all the real divisions, that is. Okay, first we have the order of eminence and the order of dependence. So eminence here is just when the prior thing, or the causer, is more perfect than the posterior, or the caused. This is pretty classic in scholastic philosophy. Now, this isn't necessarily true in per accidens causal series, because creatures can obtain greatness over time. They can become greater. But in per se causal series, the prior must be more perfect than the posterior. The causer is more perfect than the cause. Otherwise, the causer would be creating more perfection than it contained, and that would be, impossible. Next is the order of dependence. This is just to say that the posterior depends on the prior, the caused depends on the causer, or the effect, I guess, depends on the cause. And then we have an axiom here of asymmetry. The existence of the posterior, or the effect, depends on the prior, but the prior does not depend on the posterior. Okay, the next division is that between proximate and distal causes. This is in the order of dependence. Scotus will leave the order of eminence undivided for the entire section, but the order of dependence will be divided into a couple different things. The first one is proximate and distal causes. So proximate causes are causes that are immediately prior to the effect. They're the last cause before the effect. The distal causes could be further back in the chain. Maybe there's like an angel which causes the proximate cause, which causes your existence. Or maybe there's 5 angels that each cause the other one. These would all be distal causes, whereas the most immediate cause of the effect is the proximate cause. You can see the little illustration here where you have the effect. The proximate is right before the effect, and then the distal is farther away from both the proximate and the effect. Next, we've got an axiom of transitivity. The effect depends on the proximate and the distal causes. So it is caused by the distal causes. Yeah. Next, we're subdividing the order of dependence on the first side, or the second side here, actually, which is the distal causes. There are examples of things that are posterior but not dependent on the prior, but they both depend on some third thing. So if you just take a mental image, you could have a common cause of x, x causes y, and x also causes z, but z is farther away from x than y is, so y would be prior. And then the posterior is prior to and dependent on both the prior and the common cause. Okay, and then finally we have the final division, which is the division of the proximate causes of a being, which are the formal, material, final, and efficient causes. These are very well known. I will not be expounding them here. If you're interested in a basic idea of what each of these is, I would recommend my videos on Aquinas' De Principio Naturae, on the principles of nature. Yeah, and that'll be all for this video.